I'm not going to give a real big definition of sleep anxiety because if you are watching this and you feel like you have some sleep anxiety, then you're in the right place. Because having anxiety around sleep can look so many different ways. Some people, they can actually just be scared about sleeping for some health reasons. They can worry. I'm gonna have I've sprinkled questions from my community throughout this presentation. So I think you'll see, I think you're going to feel like you're in the right place. Whether it's you just worry about, oh my gosh, it can kind of feel like giving up control. Some people worry about staying alive when they're sleeping. Some people have experienced panic attacks in the middle of the night and they get scared about that. Some people just get scared about not sleeping. Some people get scared if they don't sleep enough. Will that impact their mental health? So there's so many reasons, and you're in the right place if you're here. And I'm going to share my story about sleep because I don't know when I first started having more severe or more significant anxiety around my sleep. Because sometimes I definitely had trouble sleeping, and I know it was kept alive by my fear around not sleeping. But I had my first panic attack in 2011, and that really ramped up my anxiety to a whole new level that I'd never experienced. I do want to say I am back to feeling really great for the past 5 years, more peaceful, more happy than I was pre-panic. But there was a time post-panic where it was like it opened up Pandora's box, or so I thought. I really felt like it was like next level mental illness. And I really bumped up my thinking about mental health and physical health. Honestly, before then, I had probably already actually been thinking about that because I joined a CrossFit gym, which at my CrossFit, they had this big mural on the wall that talked about the importance of kind of a paleo diet. And this was like 2010 that I think I first started dabbling into the world of like clean, in quotes, eating and paleo. And when I read this paleo book, it wasn't just on how to change my diet. It was like, it was a lifestyle and all these horrible things of modern time, where I needed to make my room a cave. I shouldn't have all this blue light from the TV and Wi-Fi, and I shouldn't be on my phone, and I needed to have blackout blinds and, all of these things. For me, it was a real rabbit hole. But it was very alluring because it offered this promise of like, if you ate and lived in this way, that all of our diseases were just because of like modern society and grains and sugars and technology and chemicals and toxins. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. If I eat perfectly and live perfectly, I will have perfect physical and mental health. It was a recipe for disaster and obsession for me, but I do feel like that's what really started making sleep really sticky for me. Because, yeah, I was struggling with my mental health, and then on and off some physical issues around eating and everything. But pretty soon I became really obsessed and I lost my period. And this is part of the story in that I was like, I got to get everything perfect. It really felt like I needed to sleep. I needed there to be no light in my room. So there was one point I had blackout curtains, but they would still let a teeny bit of light in. So I would like Velcro them to my wall. And can't remember other stuff. Oh, sometimes I would put like this specially made tape over my mouth because it was like not good to breathe with your mouth. And I really wanted to avoid the light of the TV. But I don't know. I'm somebody that in my relationships, we connect by like watching a TV show or a movie at night. I still do with my boyfriend now. And at this time, I was married and I had a lot of anxiety that if I didn't get enough sleep, I could lose my mind. Because when I experienced a panic attack, mine came with derealization and depersonalization, this kind of feeling of unreality, of really felt like I was like losing my mind. And I had read in a lot of books how important sleep was. And I was like, yes, it is important. I need to get a lot of sleep. And and I remember reading like here are the most important hours for your sleep. You know what? I'm wondering if you want to see my face. I'll show you me. I'm not looking my best today, but that's okay. Sometimes I usually try to look presentable, but this is how I look today. So I'm going to finish my sleep story. Okay, so I was like, it's really important for me to get these hours. I had read the hours between like 10 and 2, but I really want to be sleeping definitely by 10. But I thought I needed to have a wind down. So I got really anxious around sleeping because I also felt like I didn't want to watch TV, but if I did, I'd wear my blue light blocking glasses and I'd feel like tense because I was like, I got to get to bed. And my ex-husband is such a great guy. He's somebody said behind every anxious woman or every anxious partner is like a guy that's so calm. And that was very true for me. It's funny because now I'm pretty calm, I'm pretty peaceful. And my boyfriend, he's not at all like diagnosed with anxiety, but sometimes he can be quirky like I used to be, or like I am now. We're both kind of just more typical. But back to how I used to be with sleep. So my husband at the time was just such a calm, chill guy. He could just watch TV and stay up late and eat some snacks. And I was like, I am different. I'm broken. I have to get to bed. And so I'd kind of be ramping up my anxiety while feeling like I should connect and watch a show with him, but also feeling scared and justified. Like sleep is so important. And especially for me. And then if I wasn't falling asleep quickly, I would start to get worried, counting down. Oh no, now I can only get 7 hours of sleep, now 6 hours of sleep. And I would get really scared that if I had kind of less than 6 hours of sleep, I would maybe panic. I wouldn't be able to do my job. I was a school psychologist at the time. And what if I couldn't parent? What if I also had driving anxiety? So sometimes I'd just be like, I got to cancel my day. On and on and on. I tried so many different tinctures for anxiety. I never took like a prescription sleep medicine, but an herbal remedy. I took so many herbal remedies. I would do sometimes breathing exercises or meditation before bed. I've always bathed. I love a bath before bed, but that was one thing I did. What else did I do? Sometimes I do like alternate nostril breathing, have a weighted blanket, have like sleep masks, earplugs, just had a lot. And I just put a lot of thinking into it. And when I came into the three principles understanding, one thing that I realized, one of my early insights was that like, maybe I was doing too much, like, and also maybe I didn't need to do all of that. And maybe everything that I was doing for this kind of long night routine, like maybe it was actually like harmful because I was like thinking so much about it. And I can share how my sleep changed. So my life started to change when I came into this three principles conversation. I stopped resisting panic attacks. I got over my driving anxiety. Like really my life changed. But I still thought sleep was important. I still, for a good bit, took like an herbal sleeping remedy. I had various ones because I still kind of had this idea in my head that sleep is important. And I'm not saying it's not, but that's not a very helpful concept. Like I just never think that now. But I still had this idea. I was still a little bit scared about not getting enough sleep. I met my boyfriend. So came into the three principles conversation about 5 years ago. And I met my boyfriend 3.5 years ago. So it was kind of still new into my understanding. So I met him, and in the early stages of relationships, you often stay up later. So we'd stay up and we would talk. And I remember one of those early days, I was going to have brunch at my parents', and I kind of I felt a pause because I'd probably only gotten, 5 hours of sleep, a little bit. I stopped counting my sleep. By this point, I definitely didn't count as much. But I remember thinking, maybe I should cancel brunch because there was still a little bit of this fear that I might feel anxious. Or what if I kind of lost control? But I remember thinking I felt safe enough, but what if that's not true? So I remember going to brunch. I brought my kids to brunch at my parents', and I know this might seem so insignificant, probably not to you guys watching this sleep video, but to other people, they would be like, what are you even talking about? But it was a really big change because before that, I canceled a lot. If I didn't get a good night's sleep, I would cancel it just because it felt really scary. But this time I thought, I'm not going to cancel. Let me just see. I felt okay to be uncomfortable. And I had a great time at brunch. I didn't get anxious. I didn't have a panic attack. I didn't lose control. And it was like interesting. And being with my boyfriend actually really, maybe it was just the timing anyways, but there was a part because he's part of his creative process. He like stays up really late sometimes. And sometimes he just stays up all night working. And I remember thinking how interesting that was, that very little sleep for him, while he might not feel optimal, it didn't equal anxiety. It didn't equal panic. And it started to kind of seep into me that maybe little sleep or short sleep didn't automatically equal anxiety. Like, oh, isn't that interesting? But there was no pressure. I was feeling great. My life had already changed. Really, disordered anxiety and panic was a thing of the past. But by staying up late with him, there would be days, because when you're early love, I still love him so much, but it's like that early love. I remember going to work as a school psychologist, like not on that much sleep. And it's like, I could handle crisis. I could drive. It was really cool. And I would still, when I would sleep at his house, I would sometimes still bring my sleeping tincture. And I did feel a little bit embarrassed of it. Like so I remember sometimes I would like secretly take it. And then I don't know, one day I just had this feeling like, I thought, I bet I could sleep without it. And so I didn't take it. And I've never really taken anything for sleep since then. But I didn't put any pressure on myself to get to that place. I also understand so much more, hopefully what I'm going to share in this presentation. But that is my story with sleep. I'm going to get back to the presentation. I'm so happy you're here. Actually, I'm going to share how I sleep now. So my sleep definitely started to change about 3.5 years ago. I mean, it changed 5 years ago and then again 3.5 years ago. And I would never, ever think that I could sleep how I do now. Because before I was much more like alert and vigilant. And I just thought, I'm never going to be somebody that's going to fall asleep to like a TV show or movie. I'm like, that's just not me. My mom can do that all the time. We're watching stuff and she falls asleep. And I'm like, no, that's me now. Definitely a few times a week, I will fall asleep when my boyfriend and I watch a TV show. I'm so relaxed. Also, if you don't, doesn't mean you're not relaxed. But like, honestly, I think I had my guard up for most of my life, that it was like, no falling asleep to TV. Actually, I did used to fall asleep to TV in high school. There was a few years, I remember putting Seinfeld on and I could set my TV to a timer. But as an adult, I didn't really fall asleep much to a TV. And then it was like so bad to be in front of the TV. I think nothing now about my nighttime routine. I just don't even think of that. I'm sure I do the same stuff because I still take a bath because I love a bath. I take a bath, I scroll on my phone, all these things that I used to think were so bad, but I know now have nothing to do with sleep, as you're going to learn, as I'm going to share with you. And when my boyfriend's out of town, honestly, what I found is I bring my computer, this one that I'm recording on, into my bed, and I don't intend to do it, but I watch a show and I get so tired that I fall asleep, and then eventually I close my computer and put it on my desk. But like, never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that would be how I fall asleep. I don't think about the number of hours of sleep I'd like to get. Sure, I know that I feel good getting a good night's sleep. But I also used to think like a good night's sleep meant like I'd never wake up in the night. And now I do wake up throughout the night, but I don't think too much about it. And I mostly fall right back asleep. And there are some nights where it feels so fun to just stay up, and I stay up until midnight by myself. Like often I usually am in bed. My boyfriend and I actually sleep in separate beds because he snores. And we have a few different rooms. So I love it. I love it. We usually hang out together, and then I come up and I take a bath and I read a book on my phone, or sometimes I honestly just scroll social media. Or if my boyfriend is out of town, I'll watch a show and then I just fall asleep. And I don't know, I don't need to go into too long, but I sleep effortlessly. I have no thinking about sleep. And yeah, sure, there are some times where I might have some more thinking, so maybe I don't sleep as well, but I don't worry. If it's before a flight, or even sometimes even before like one of my kids is going to go on a trip or something. But I don't put pressure on myself. I remember one insight that I had early on, or not an insight, just a shift was I guess I wasn't sleeping that much one night, and I just felt this feeling of gratitude. I was like, who even made beds? And how lucky are we that we have beds and down comforters and pillows and it was not forced gratitude. And I remember once I had an acupuncturist who said that lying down is just as restorative as sleep. So for me, having a sleepless night is very few and far between, but I know it's just as restorative for me to lie down. One thing that I did when I was like transitioning from not having sleep anxiety, if I had a bad night's sleep, I was into this thing called yoga nidra, which is like sleep yoga. And I'm not suggesting this is not a tip or technique, but when I still did have some anxiety around not getting enough sleep, like if my kids and I went on an airplane, and it's so funny because I have none of that anxiety now. And by none of that, I mean, I don't worry that I could lose control if I don't get enough sleep, that I could panic, that I could have anxiety. For me, I know it's so okay to be tired. It's like it's okay, but there was a time when on my anxiety journey where that still did I had a lot of thinking around it. But so I would comfort myself by thinking, well, if I do a yoga nidra, which is just sleep yoga, it's like all over YouTube, where if there was something that would have caused me a lot of anxiety, like maybe traveling, or I don't think we take red eyes, but I don't know. There was one time thinking I'll just lie down and do a sleep yoga. I'm not saying that's what you should do. But here I am today, just effortlessly sleeping and no stress if I don't, where if a kid is sick at night or my boyfriend is snoring, or I just have a noisy head and I don't sleep that much. I'm just so shocked at how fast I go to sleep and how effortlessly I sleep. And the same is possible for you. And now we will really get back into the. So, what I invite you to do is to let go of the past. I know some people are like, I've had trouble sleeping for 20 years. My dad has trouble sleeping. I've always had trouble sleeping. Really entertain the idea of letting go of the past and open up to the possibility of a new sleep experience. It's really possible. Let go of the past because the future is unknown. And that's really exciting because the unknown is what's possible. There is so much hope in the unknown. You have no idea what tonight's going to be like, or the next night, or the next night. I never would have predicted that this is my life and this is how I sleep. But in the unknown, there's the possibility of a new experience, a new solution, a new idea. Oh, it's really exciting. I also find that this is so true, that suffering, it's not punishment. It's an invitation to look in a new direction beyond the intellect. And I imagine you've had some suffering with sleep, and that's why you're here. And it's really exciting because I hope I'm going to point you in a new direction beyond your intellect. And what I mean, and also I didn't say this, this isn't a sentence exactly by me. This was shared with me by my mentor, Dr. Pettit, from a book that he was reading. And beyond the intellect means kind of like beyond our personal thinking in a new direction. And I'm going to point you to that throughout this whole presentation, this whole video. First, I want to also start with a poem by Jane Tucker in her book Insights. It's called Courage. You might not think it takes courage to be happy. Or I might say, you might not think it takes courage to sleep well, but sometimes it does. When our minds are full of negative thoughts, these thoughts can make us feel like we'll lose something if we stop thinking about them. We can get caught up in a whirlpool of insecure thinking, swirling around and pulling us down deeper and deeper. All of this fear and negativity can fall away in a second, though, if we have the courage to see it for what it is, only thoughts. Nothing real, nothing true, only an interpretation of life, a dream we are choosing to believe. The moment we accept our own part in creating the dream, it loses its power. That one moment puts things in perspective, and we see that we have a choice every second of our lives. If the choice is ours, why not create beauty? When we experience a beautiful feeling, it spreads out like ripples in a pond, touching everyone we meet. Courage of this kind is rewarded immediately and is accompanied by deep gratitude. So I invite you to have the courage to let your past go and to open up to the beauty of the unknown and to let it unfold.